Joining us now, Secretary of Transportation, Virginia, Aubrey Layne. Mr. Secretary, good to have you.
Hey, John. Good morning to you, and glad to hear you talking about infrastructure and transportation in Virginia, because we have a lot going on. Thankful for that.
Give us an update.
As you pointed out, I think one of the biggest frustrations people have is that they pay taxes and don't see things getting done.
Right.
And, right now, we have more in construction, not only in Hampton Roads, but across the Commonwealth in our history. A lot of that has to go, as you mentioned, to the courageous vote taken to put more investment in there, and Bob McDonnell the last year of his administration. And then under Governor McAuliffe, we tried to take that and use it wisely, implementing smart-scale new prioritization, but also reforming how we do public-private partnerships. And I think this is key. One of the things Governor McAuliffe has allowed me to do is use business principles, and we've freed the private sector, unleashed them, I would say, in building these roads. For instance, you mentioned on 64 on the peninsula, that has an incentive for them to get done early. Here before, the state was trying to get what they call the lowest cost by, letting the contractors do it over some periods of time. And it was a terrible, terrible headache to our citizens. Now they're getting done quicker. I hope that contractor gets all the incentives. I think they're on track to do that, because we never calculated the cost to the public for their disruption.
Right.
And so now we do, and that is the best money we'll ever spend, getting them in and out of there quickly. And get this, John, when you have that incentive paid, there are no claims. So we're done, and we move on to the next one. So we're trying to be good stewards. As you know, there's not enough money for everything. Limited resources have consequences. But I think we can stand up to the taxpayers and saying, what you've given us, we're using it wisely.
I tell you what, Secretary Layne, I love the incentive program that you have, which incentivizes, as you say, the road contractor in order to finish early or finish ahead of schedule or finish as fast as they can, because it is, it is a disruption to the public. Right now, you go up 64 or back, it's worse, but it's short-term pain, long-term gain. But here's the thing that I love about it. And, we all took a lot of flack over this 2013 transportation vote. I mean, I was about the only conservative person in media to be behind it. You can't imagine the names I got blasted with. But now you're driving up there and you see with your own eyes, you see the roads being widened, lanes being added. Now, the big one on the peninsula, which is basically Newport News, where that extension ended to Williamsburg, that's where it bottlenecked all the time. You got stuck in there all the time. When will that actually be done?
That should be done. There's actually 3 phases, about 22 miles, going all the way just west of Williamsburg, the West 199 exit. That'll be all done by 2021. And then, of course, right behind that, on the south side, we've got the high-rise bridge that'll be coming online. And then following that, or starting probably before it's completed, will be the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel. These are projects that I've lived here all my adult life. And by the way, John, I can't imagine some of the names you're called. I'm a Republican in a Democratic administration, so I've been called a lot of things also. But I think these are Republican, conservative, and pragmatic common sense principles we're using to get this infrastructure built and using the taxpayers' monies wisely. These are projects that we didn't think, I didn't think would get done in my lifetime. Now they're funded. Yes, part of it's being paid through by tolls, but the good news with that is, John, it's a choice. Unlike the fixed tolls that were done on the downtown Midtown tunnel, these will be a choice where consumers can determine whether or not it's worth their time and money to pay to get in lanes and the express lanes. And, John, everyone that chooses to do that frees up in the space in the free lanes. And, by the way, you don't ever have to pay as long as you put one other person in your car with you. One of the things I know you've talked about on your show is about eminent domain and taking people's property. We've got limited resources. What we're trying to do is use the current infrastructure more wisely. That's encouraging more people to get in cars, more than one person. But if you don't want to, you have now legally the option to pay on the reversible lane starting in December during rush hour. So I really think this is about choice and about the driving public the ability to determine how they want to traverse the roads here in Hampton Roads.
Mr. Secretary, talk to us a little bit about these reversible lanes express lanes, and you're going to have to pay through an Easy Pass. Where will they be, and when will they be up?
Yeah, they're going to immediately start, John, I say immediately, sometime around the 1st of December. It's the HOV reversible lanes between the Norfolk Naval Base right there at Little Creek 564, coming around to the intersection on 64 and 264, the Norfolk and Virginia Beach proprietary lines. And what will happen is now, as you know, during rush hour, if you're single occupant, you can't use those lanes legally. What we're going to do is allow you want to use them now to pay a toll, and that toll will be based on what's called dynamic pricing.
Right.
Basically, you're guaranteed a 55 or maybe it's a little bit higher travel through that quarter. We're expecting the tolls between $1 and $2, but it'll be based on traffic flow. But here's the key. You never have to pay if there's another person in your car, and it's only during rush hour now. But if you want to use them as a single driver, you can pay that toll, and then you'll free up space in the free lanes that people who choose not to pay. We're seeing this in Northern Virginia actually cutting into congestion.
Mm-hmm.
It's anticipated here somewhere around 18 to 20% reduction on the free lanes. If that happens, John, we will have eliminated congestion on those roadways. So it's really about giving us a choice, dealing with limited resources, and the ability to get more people in the car to get more people through these congested roads.
See, that just makes a lot of sense because you're giving people the choice. If you look at coming back like I do, I go up to D.C. and come back every single week, all right? So I have to deal with that, and I go through all the roads that you're talking about. But normally when I go up and back, I have the choice to take that Easy Pass. And, sometimes if I'm going up there at 3 a.m., I don't because, why pay whatever the dynamic price is. But then when I'm coming back on a Friday afternoon, I mean, you bet I'm going to pay whatever that is because it saves me an hour and a half. But if I don't feel like paying it, I don't need to pay it. Or if I have multiple people in the car with me, I don't have to pay it either. So that just makes perfect sense the way you're doing it. Now, there's also a bottleneck that many of our listeners face when they go up to D.C. and back or up to Northern Virginia and back. When you get off the Easy Pass lane, just going to before Fredericksburg, I mean, that's backed up. Even on the Easy Pass lane, that's backed up for like an hour sometimes. Now, I see that is getting extended. That's being widened. What's the deal with that?
That's right. Yes, that'll be about 10 miles coming all the way through Fredericksburg. And let's just be honest, that was a mistake. That design was poorly done by the Commonwealth, and we've got to correct that, which we are, because that's the whole idea. You want these free-flowing. I think if VDOT had to do over again, they'd design it differently. Right. But they've learned from that, and so we'll have these lanes connected all the way down. We're working with our partners, Transurban. That'll be the person that'll be helping us extend those lanes. Makes sense. They're the concessionaire on the ones going to the north. But under our new P3s, they have proven that they can do that less expensively than the Commonwealth, and that's the new reform. So, I can stand up from the taxpayers and say, hey, if we did this ourselves, it would cost us more. And that's the key, I think, people, what we've tried to put in with dealing with the private sector is make them compete, which they're more than willing to do so. And I think they've proven that by projects not only in Hampton Roads, but in the Charlottesville area, Northern Virginia. As long as it's a fair playing field and they can prove that they can do it less expensively than the Commonwealth and we get the roads and the project we want, that's the way we should involve the private sector.
Well, I love the way you're doing it. We're getting the results, and I can't wait until that extension is done. You're right. I mean, coming off the Easy Pass before Fredericksburg on 95, the way it just feeds right into a two-lane highway, really an absurd design. It's got to get backed up. There's no way to stop it. So hopefully you're going to be able to solve that. When will that be done, Aubrey?
That project should be done in the next about 36 months. It's already under contract, and there'll be some extensions down here too, John. When we build the high-rise bridge, the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, we're contemplating extending those hot lane networks to give people a choice. And I can't reiterate enough to say it's always a free choice.
Right.
You got to put somebody else in your car. You can stay in the lanes. And the way you use them, John, is the way we're finding the traveling public does. They don't use it every day, but if they need it for a particular issue, it's there to them. And that's making the roadways a whole lot more accessible for everybody.
I tell you what, the plan you've got in place that you can see with your own eyes being implemented now and how you set this up, Audrey, is very, very impressive under the leadership of, I'm going to say it, here it goes, under the leadership of Governor Terry McGenius.
Yeah,
that's right.
John, he is allowed, I tell people, he gets a lot of credit. He chose governance over politics in transportation. Governor McDonald was the one that led the effort for more funding, but Governor McAuliffe is the one that says we're going to do this right, gave us the opportunity, gave us good governance and independence of the Commonwealth Transportation Board so they could make independent decisions. He has never once come into my office and say, I want you to build this road. And he's always told me, don't bring me a bad deal. He's really, I don't think we could have accomplished this without his leadership, but also his decision to not bring politics into this, in the roads and how we allocate these resources. So I could not agree more, John.
He's been a great governor. He's been a great governor. And look, I'm a Republican. You're a Republican. I didn't vote for him. My wife did. But if he was running again, he would get reelected. He's been a great governor. And I mean, you got to take politics out of it. He's brought jobs to the state. And just the way you've described how you've designed this transportation and maximize the dollars that we have makes a lot of sense. And he's gotten out of your way. So that's the main thing. All right, I got one question and then a couple of questions from our audience.
Sure.
So hang in there with me. You're so involved in this. You've done such a great job in a new administration. Is there a chance that Aubrey Layne stays as Secretary of Transportation come January 2018?
Well, John, we're just concentrated on the next 5 months and making sure whoever that is, it's a smooth transition. John, you never say never because whenever a governor or a governor-elect would ask you, take it seriously. But I'll be honest with you, that's not what I'm planning to do. I think I really do believe in citizen service and getting in and doing it and maybe moving on. But I will give my word to whoever the next governor is, and I think we have two great guys that are running, quite frankly, that whatever the transition will be, it'll be smooth in transportation, and we'll have a seamless transition as we go forward.
But, Mr. Secretary, the way I've heard you is if you were asked to stay on by either Ed Gillespie or Ralph Northam, you would stay on. Is that what I've heard?
No. What I would say is that I would be courteous and listen to them because you take that seriously. But, John, what you've heard is that's not what I am planning to do. Or what if you were asked me today, I have other interests that I'd like to pursue. But I would be courteous and listen because I do take public service very seriously. Okay,
so that sounds like a maybe. All right, I got a couple of questions here from our listeners. Debbie in Norfolk says, Mr. Secretary, I want to know when the construction on Military Highway at the Norfolk Airport will be done. It's currently a nightmare 24/7. Debbie in Norfolk.
Yeah, that Military Highway, unfortunately, that project, I shouldn't say unfortunately, it is being done. The roadways and Hampton roads are controlled by the cities off the interstates. Mm-hmm. So that construction at Military Highway, Debbie, I'll see if I can get an update. I don't know off the top of my head, but that is the City of Norfolk project that is being done.
Okay.
The interstates would be us. We'll be doing work there at Northampton Boulevard. We've got a lot of work to be done there because of the new outlet mall. But once we get off of that, it is controlled by the localities here in Hampton Roads. All
right, I've got two more I've got time for. Jay in Virginia Beach says, will there be message boards that tell traffic patterns of the HOV lanes and also the regular lanes?
Yes. In fact, I'm glad, Jay, bring that up. We're going to take the next few months and do a very, hopefully a good job. My Deputy Secretary, Grinley Johnson's in charge of this, educating the public, but giving them not only how to use the roads, how to get the easy passes, how to use them. But, yes, the more information, the more we can use technology and use information to help the drivers, that'll be part of this plan. Now, John, one thing we haven't mentioned about this whole technology, these express lanes have lots of technology in the roads. We're also preparing for the future for autonomous vehicles and what have you. That's where they'll be introduced. In fact, we're just now testing them on the hot lanes in Northern Virginia. So in addition to being, I believe, the right solution for these limited resources and giving drivers a choice, we are preparing for autonomous vehicles and putting smart technology in the road. So, yes, those signage will be a big part of whatever we do with the express lanes and HOV lanes here in Hampton Roads.
Okay, great segue to our final question from Amy in Fairfax in Northern Virginia, who says, Mr. Secretary, will future construction contracts require workers to be U.S. citizens or legal residents?
That was a topic that came about in the last legislative session. We are a right-to-work state, and so as such, there is no law that can force a contractor to use a labor contract or hire union labor. I will say this, and particularly in Northern Virginia, it may be up to the contractor. Labor is so expensive up there. I've seen where some contractors have thought it advantageous for them to use contract labor because they guarantee to have the labor. So the answer is there is no law that currently forces that issue, and I believe that is rightly so. But I do believe there have been, again, 395 and 95 was used with a project labor agreement. The contractor thought it was in their best interest to lock the labor up. Well, I say lock it up. I mean in terms of having it there so they know they could meet the incentives in these contracts. And that's what we talked about earlier, John. So I don't want to take away anything that the private business community would think would be to their advantage to get these incentives. On the other hand, we don't mandate anything and should not mandate anything.
Okay, that's going to be the final word from Virginia Secretary of Transportation Aubrey Layne, working very hard to get some of these roads fixed under Virginia Governor Terry McGenius. Mr. Secretary, good to have you with us, sir. Thank you.